when in disgrace, with fortune and men's eyes, I all alone beweep my outcast state, and trouble death heaven with bootless cries, and look upon myself and curse my fate. Wishing me like to one more rich in hope, featured like him with friends possessing, desiring this man's art and that man's scope, with what I most enjoy contented least. Yet, in these thoughts, myself almost despising, haply I think on thee. And then my state, like to the lark, at break of day arising, from sullen earth sings hymns at heaven's gate. For thy sweet love, remembered, such wealth brings, that then I scorn to change my state with kings. Yeah, that was Sonnet 29. This was a bit of this felt a bit unrelated to the previous ones, which seemed to kind of go sequentially. Excuse me. It was kind of, it's an interesting compliment to make. I love you so much that when things are so shitty, and my life is shit, and I hate myself and curse my fate, I think of you, and that's okay. I thought it made for a very interesting turn, because when I read it, it took me off guard. I was like, oh, but he's happy sometimes. But the way it's written, it just makes me wonder if this was at all, if there was any reference to some sort of actual thing that happened to Shakespeare. Did something happen? And it's interesting because then when we think about it, when you think about disgrace, public disgrace, disgrace in men's eyes, being publicly disgraced, it makes me think of the tabloid stuff, shit stories about celebrities. And I mean, the reality was Shakespeare was became well known as a playwright, and even before he really took off, he was he was putting on work in London and in the public sphere. So even if he wasn't super famous, he was subject to public criticism, and that coupled with the fact that he was in the theater, the arts, with actors and musicians and artists and all the sin that goes with that. There's kind of I would think back then there would be a more maybe there would be more of a stigmatism against actors and playwrights and artists in that kind of sphere. Hyperbolizing, I don't know this shit. I mean, but this is just where my mind went, because it did seem to be written. I don't know, the looking at other people and wishing that you had their life, because their life is so much better that you could take the thing that you most enjoy, and that to them is like what stresses them out. That's how great their life is. But then that in itself is kind of an interesting commentary on happiness, right? It doesn't matter if you're super rich or really poor, or have the job you want, or have a terrible job. I mean, well, it does matter. Don't get me wrong. It does matter. But there's always going to be contrast, and we're always striving for more as people. What I take joy in on a daily basis, it's going to be different than what someone else takes joy in, and what stresses me out is going to be different than what someone else is stressed out by, and it's entirely dependent on our social status and economic status and all these different things, and that's where you can kind of isolate true hardship, because relatively speaking, I feel like I haven't really, me, Jimmy, I feel like I haven't experienced like real hardship in the sense that, people are starving and people are, you know, have their civil liberties, ripped right from under them. And there's real terrible stuff going on in the world. So, the, theoretically, I should feel very grateful, and I do feel very grateful. But that's not like I don't get sad and depressed and stressed and stuff. That's part of being human. And so, I thought it was kind of an interesting tangent it brought me on, thinking about, that looking at someone else and wanting their life, and I don't think that's necessarily universal. But I would also maybe tie that to maturity. I think that's, depending on maybe maturity and I guess self-esteem. I think it's easy to, if you're really down on yourself, it's easy to go to a place like that. And especially if you're looking at a window that looking through a window to someone else's life that seems all sunshine and daisies. But I mean, it's not. It's not. There's always contrast. And as human beings, it's like we're too smart to be tricked into being happy all the time. We find something to be miserable about. So it was thought provoking, but stylistically, it was I liked the turn. I liked the yet. Even when I really hate life, there's good stuff. And so I do appreciate that. I think it ended on a hopeful note, and I think that last line is a good commentary on, like, yeah, if you're in love, if you've got people that care, like good people in your life, yeah, it doesn't matter if you rule a country or if you're at the bottom of the social chain. Having people that you care about and care about you is kind of the point, right? Yeah, this one was fun. Wow. Sonnet 30 next week. We're into the 30s. Holy smokes. Yeah, happy Sunday.